For some reason, I'm not sure why, I did not put the rising wood on the deadwood keel. So I've since made that up, and I'll just go through it with you. And then I will take you through how you go about making sure that you align the Gunport windows correctly with the frames. So the two of them work hand in hand, because the side of each Gunport opening is in fact a frame. Here is the deadwood keel. The centerpiece is made up of three independent pieces. The piece that goes on the front, the middle, and the stern. And here it is on the plan, and you see it slowly tapers down, and eventually it gets to my understanding of 6 1/4 inches, and it goes all the way back, and here it's a butt joint. This is how we've made up. This is the front piece, and it's made to the height that the deadwood is at this point in time, which I believe is 8.5 inches, and the center piece is at 6 1/4 inches. There's a little scarf joint at the front, and another one where the two boards join. And you'll notice that I've made it at two different heights. This is just put through the thickness sander. So this is a gradual curve up to the point it joins the bow stem. In the case of the aft one, it is the same thing, except it's a butt joint on one side, and then the middle piece again has a small scarf joint. To make sure that it lines up perfectly, we've in fact pinned it, although each of the frames will be pinned later on. We've pinned it because we're going to stick it now, and we want to make sure it lines up. So by simply putting the pieces on, we can line it up perfectly. And here we have it before being stuck. And you'll see that on frame 11, the foot has increased in size to 15 inches, which is the same size as the deadwood on the keel. Based on the instructions from the book, we've also chamfered the edges down so they're at a slight angle. We did this with a sanding board. I really couldn't figure out any other way to do this that would give me consistent results. And we did it on both the bow and stern pieces. Following on the instruction, we're going to use some black PVA. So we put out some black acrylic paint, which we will mix into the glue. Get it nice and black, and then use that to put it down. Being very careful not to put too much down, because we're going to have to clean up. And the front piece, the same. And the back piece. And we put some weights on it to make sure that it's down hard. Let's now move to the gun ports. There are two approaches to put or create the gun ports. The first one, the preferred one by Greg and David, seems to be erecting each gun port while the frames are still flat and not mounted on the boat. And the second one, which is the one I prefer, is to mount them afterwards, because I've never done this before and I am just totally paranoid that I'm going to get it wrong. Having said that, I spoilt one of the frames, and so I thought I'd use that frame to go through the exercise, and who knows, I might get enough courage to put the Gunport sills in while installing the frames. So not promising, but at least we need to go through the exercise. The first thing we need to do is establish the height, and we need to mark it with a knife. Again, the knife, because it gives us a very accurate line that a pencil point won't give you. And then we double check this against the model. The thickness of the sill is 5 inches, so that's 0.1042. And the same thing on the other side. Lining it back up with the board so that the lines are parallel with the floor. And we've marked out our 2 lines. You can highlight it with a pencil. Now we cut a little bird beak. It's very shallow. Sharper the chisel, the easier it is to do this. And I like to just clean it up a little bit with a file. It's very slight. The Gunport height is 27 inches, so that is 0.5625, and we mark that out again on the line that we've set up. On both sides. That's the lower end of the top. Now we're going to put the 5-inch top sill mark using the knife. Here is the bottom and the top, and the same thing on this side. As I told you before, I plan to install the Gunport stills when all the frames are in place. So to help with my alignment of the frames so that I get these exactly, I made up these 2 spacer blocks, and they're exactly the size of the window. I put them in place, which is going to help me align the frames so that I don't have any issues when I try to put the sills in on the Gunport openings. And there you have perfect alignment with the Gunport and no issues at all. You can now work the 2 frames 12 forward and 11 aft. The frames are now complete. We did move the Gunport spacer up a little bit so that we'd have easy access to putting in the port stills. Now we're going to install the Gunport on the model. So the first thing we do is we've taken the measurements off the plan and we've written them down so we don't get them confused. So the back is 4.526, and the front is 4.328, and the front is 5.07. And do the same thing on the other side. Now that's the top and the bottom. In other words, it's the inside dimensions of the frame. Now we have the 5-inch sill on both the top and the bottom. Now we're just going to take off the excess here, just to open up the hole a little bit. Now we must mark the space, so we're putting a ruler in on the exact spot on both sides, so that we can cut the line correctly. And we have this little saw blade on the utility knife, and we're going to use that to cut the groove. Get a nice straight line. Little chunks at a time. Now we use the file to clean it up and open it up. And we've cut the window sills from 5-inch stock. I made up this little jig here on the bench sander. This is set at 20 degrees, which is my estimate of what the angle is, and it helps me make a nice clean. And having got it almost in, the fine adjustments are made with the Proxon pen sander. And the key is it mustn't be pressured, it must fit in fairly neatly. There we go. We're just again checking the lineup. So this is the bulk 5-inch stock, and we'll check the top, and we're checking the alignment on the bottom. We've put some alignment marks, and we just keep going at it until we get it fully aligned. So now we'll just stick it up. Unfortunately, when I was installing this frame, I followed the frame layout I made here, and in fact this frame, the cut should have been at the top, not at the bottom. I'm not going to change it now. I'll just make sure going forward that all the rest are correct, for the simple reason that as this is a fully planked model.